Okay, welcome, friends. I just thought I'd do something a little different this week, and I wanted to just interview one of my friends. A lot of times when we're on social media, it can look like everyone else's life is going like so well except yours, and you can feel like you're not measuring up or whatever. Even if you know that what's being portrayed on social media isn't real life, we can still believe that lie that I'm not measuring up. So I just wanted to have like a conversation with another mom today, bring a little encouragement, and just show that sometimes real life can look messy, but there's there's some ways to overcome or not feel alone. So, welcome to my good friend Jackie. She is a
Hello.
mom of 20. No, I'm just kidding. She's just a mom of 10. See, it doesn't seem like a lot when you just say, go from 20 to 10,
Yeah,
right?
right. That's
she, she lives in Montana with her family, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you also are running two businesses, correct?
yes.
Yeah.
We have two businesses.
So, Jackie, as a mom of 10, what is your most asked questions from other moms?
They're moms. Um, they probably most of the time they say, "I don't know how you do it. I barely make it with my three," you know.
Yes.
And I always say, "It's God." He's the one that helps me because yeah, I wouldn't have made it through this far without him.
hmm Yeah. When you have a large family, I mean, there's a lot of assumptions made. So, and you
Mhm.
said a lot of people ask, like, how do you do it?
Mhm.
And so
Yeah.
a lot of times they'll mean like, do you have routines in place, systems? So are you more of a systems person or a wing it person?
Um, I had routines, yeah. Routines and systems were my friend, but I learned to be flexible
Mm,
because
yeah.
there was so often that things didn't go according to my system or plan.
Right, right,
And
for
so
sure.
realizing that that's okay.
Mhm.
And
Um,
in all of it too, that we're growing. You know
yeah,
what I mean?
yeah,
Whether we make this system and it works or we have to veer off almost daily, we're always growing and learning. So
and I like that you said you have flexible routines and systems, because sometimes we can get stuck in thinking that the routine is our standard, and then we beat ourselves up for not meeting that standard for the day. And then we say things like, I failed, I'm not persistent, I'm not consistent, which I mean, could be true or not true. It just
mm,
could be that you needed to be flexible today.
right. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And being willing to meet those needs as they come rather than being rigid and saying, no, I gotta stay on this system or this routine.
Yes. Tell me a little bit more about meet those needs.
Well, all the needs in the home, you
Mm-hmm.
know, for me, because I was homeschooling. And so, however many kids we had at the time, we ended with 10. We still have seven in the house. But the needs of there's a sibling rivalry.
Right.
Somebody can't find their shoes.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody needs a band-aid, you know,
Yeah.
needs help with schoolwork and, just the baby needs a diaper change, you
Yeah.
know,
So
and
if you're listening to this on this recording or live stream, I want you to leave in the comments if you um, are a routines people, a routine person, or do you feel like that is where you need work? Okay. Because we're going to move into this next phase, because we were talking a lot of times we want to know, what do we need to do? And then you said something like, we need to be flexible to meet the needs of our family. Well, what do you say to the mom who feels like it's all up to her to carry every need of her family?
mm, what I realized because I knew with the many as many kids as I have, and I know you Mo have your your quiver full too, but I I knew that I couldn't do everything. And so I got really good at delegating out. Even, how about you ask your sister if she can get you the Band-Aid, you
Mhm.
know? And then also realizing that I didn't have to stop everything I was doing at the moment because of their urgent need for, but say, okay, I'm going to do these dishes and then I'll help you with that. You know,
Mm,
rather than feeling frantic, like trying to do everything at one time,
right.
just pick one thing at a time.
One thing at a time,
Hmm.
which is almost hard to do at times because I think as moms, we have a mental, we might have a mental task list, you might have your to-do list or whatever. And so we're always looking ahead and then feeling behind.
Right.
But what you said is just do one thing at a time,
Hmm.
which
Yeah.
is that releases some of that pressure of everything has to be completed on my task list or my mental task list. It's like, no, okay, let's tackle the next thing.
Right.
Um, but going back to what you said, when a lot of a lot of moms, we all do this. We're like, give me the one thing I have to do to feel whatever, and as a mom, to feel like I have it all together as a mom, or to feel like I'm not burning out, or how do I feel, like what do I need to do in
Mhm.
order to not feel overwhelmed or stressed out. So we always go to what do we need to do? But you were telling me that you had kind of um, a switch on that. Instead of going to doing, what did you find in the hard times when you had some hard seasons with your family, or even just your normal raising your kids season? What
Yeah.
was the counterintuitive thing that you did?
So I believed.
Mm,
Okay. So in the believing, so I remember at one point, I probably had 6 or 7 kids at this time. And I was sitting on my couch, and we always did music as a family, or I did it with the kids
mhm.
more so. And I had this verse up on my wall, okay? And you know how you can have those things up on your wall and never pay attention to it.
Right, right.
But at this point, I was in the process of needing help, wanting to do the word. And this verse said, unless the Lord builds the house, those who build it labor in vain. Well, I was thinking, I don't want to be laboring in vain. It
Mm,
was hard, it was like striving, toiling in this, making my home, raising the family. But I was like, unless the Lord build this house. So I asked him right then and there, Lord, I need you to build this house. I
mm.
don't know how. And then from there, he just slowly showed me, like, to take a step back when I was, when a need came up, asking him, what do I do with this? How do I meet this need? How do I discipline the kids? Just all of the things that come up, just trying to remember to acknowledge him in it.
Wow. Yeah,
So
because
that,
a lot of times I'm speaking from me, my own
yeah.
personal opinion, experience, but like I'll get a verse or I'll memorize a verse, but then
Mhm.
it's like rote, it's just, it didn't go here or it didn't go to a belief. But then you finally came to the point where unless the Lord builds a house, its builders labor in vain.
Yeah.
So if the Lord is building the house, like with me as a mom, what
Mhm.
does that enable me to stand on? Like, um he's building it, but then I'm also like co-laboring, right?
Yeah. Mhm.
And so
And
then it's not all on us.
no, yeah, then we just take the steps as we're led, because the word tells us too that we're led by the Spirit.
Hmm.
If we're sons and daughters of God, we're led by the Spirit of God. I think that's in Romans. And so if we believe we're led, then then as we take steps, okay, God, and we're acknowledging him, then we're just walking in it with God. And
Yes.
and in him, we know that we have the victory,
Right, right.
that he's our help and he's just guiding us in paths of righteousness.
Mhm. And I know for me as a mom, like when I was in my a really tough season where I felt like I was really just surviving, not thriving at all.
Mhm.
One verse that I held on to that like became core for me was I will see the goodness of the Lord in the land of the living. Because the land of living is now. I can see
Yeah,
his goodness now. Whereas I was surviving, waiting to just get through life and then be like, okay, then I can experience everything good afterwards. Right. But
right.
that was such a lie that I didn't realize I was functioning out of until the Lord really made it so that he pointed that verse out to me like, no, you have my goodness here
Yeah.
on earth.
Wow.
And for our listeners, I really want you to recognize the shift that was made here um, between doing, like, what do I need to do? What routines? Do I need to be better at time blocking? Do I need to be, what do I need to do? Get up earlier, like 5 a.m. to be able to get everything. It's a switch from doing to what can I believe?
Right. Mm-hmm. It's huge.
And so, how have you seen that switch um, bear fruit in your family?
Well, so knowing and believing that God was building my house and that I'm being led in it, then, it took pressure off. That meant that I could lay down anxiety,
Mm,
lay down fear, because us as moms, we're like, how are my kids going to turn out? And will
right.
they get all the laundry done? And will the dishes, all the things, even practically in our day, the reason we get anxious about it is because we're afraid.
Mm,
Like we're fearing that it won't get done or that, you know, it's kind of silly when you really think about it. Why would
right.
we be afraid? We just take one load of laundry at a time and it'll get
Yeah.
done.
And it's not only just fear, but it's also it's what we make it mean about us as moms.
Right. Hmm.
And
Yeah.
so it's like, okay, I must be a bad mom if I'm not able to handle if my house isn't spick and span, my kids are all blah blah blah. And we do that to ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's also based in fear because we're afraid that we're not going to be good enough or we're not, going to meet all the expectations.
Oh my goodness, you just said something. I'm not going to be good enough.
Mhm.
And how many times do we operate out of that thought? I'm not good enough.
Yeah. But God's already named us righteous
Yes.
and he's accepted us.
Yes. Yep. Um, what would
Mhm.
you say? Like, okay, so you have 10 kids. You said you have 7 still at home,
Mhm.
right? And you've been on this journey of like growth in your family, in your business, in your faith. Like, what does moving forward look like for you as a mom?
Mhm. As a mom, so um I've taken the steps that were unfamiliar and even scary to move forward. Like now Mo and I were covenant coaches. We're covenant life coaches. And so um but taking that step to become a coach, I had to take it scared or take it not knowing what it would all mean. Like for me, I didn't even know what a life coach was when I was presented with. I'm like, oh, that sounds interesting. But just taking those steps that God's leading me to, and it's made all the difference in my family. Just me taking steps to like investing in myself.
Wow. Yes, you just said me taking steps. Because I know when I was really stuck in survival mode, I wanted to wait to move forward until my circumstances were different and other people behaved differently or whatever. Right.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
that was key for me as well when I finally got to the point where I realized me.
Yeah.
I can move forward. I can
Mhm.
move forward in my own growth and not wait for my circumstances to line up or wait for other people to be wherever I think they should be.
Right.
um,
Exactly.
so, what do you say to someone who isn't even sure what moving forward means for them?
Mm. Well, what I would say is, what's the next thing on your heart? Like, what is what are you desiring? That's good. You know what I mean? Um, and realizing that those desires are from God. He puts the desires in our hearts, and so taking a step toward those desires,
Yeah.
however that looks for that person. What Everyone's at different spots of, okay, what would be my next step? It might be just doing another load of laundry, for like putting the laundry in, you know
Right.
and actually getting it folded and put away. Everyone's at a different spot of steps. But one thing that I learned several years ago and heard this verse and applied it was, if you make the spot you're in glorious, then we move from glory to glory. So if you can make the spot that you're in, wherever it's at, your business, your home with your kids, all, just make that as glorious as you can with the tools you have,
Mm,
then the next step that you'll be moved to will be a next step to glory. You can't move from a mess.
right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
To glory. You move from glory to glory.
So, for like a mom who just heard that, you are not talking about perfection.
Mm-mm. No, it's just doing your best job, your most excellent job,
Yes.
whatever that looks like. I mean, we all make mistakes. We all don't do what we should have done. That It's not about pressure.
Mm,
It's about, what can I do in this spot that I am in, with whatever, I mean, whether you're in a trailer house or the house of your dreams, or you know what I mean?
right.
Whatever spot, if you can just make your place glorious,
Yes.
whatever that, because then the state of glory looks different to each of us too.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what would be my best self in this spot?
Mm, that's a good reflection question. What would be my best self in this spot?
Hmm.
And you're talking about, like, you know what, doing it with excellence, with freedom,
Right.
not this notion of striving or
Mhm.
hustling or I have to
Right.
in order to be worthy, loved, or whatever. It's just like, no, what can I do right now?
Hmm. And the thought of, what do I get to do right now
Ooh, that's
in
good.
this spot, with my kids, however that looks.
Yes. That's a huge shift right there. I don't know if you guys caught that, but a lot of times we think, oh, I have to do this. Oh, I have to. But Jackie just switched it. I get to. And if
Yeah.
you get to, it's like a privilege. It's an honor. It's a joy. It's like a totally different shift of thinking there.
Yeah.
And I
Mhm.
think that's a key part that you've helped just bring up in this whole conversation, um, is what we think will dictate how we show up.
Right. Hmm.
And
Yeah.
that's actually the first step we do instead of figuring out what do I need to do.
Hmm.
It's, hey, what am I actually thinking?
Yeah. Hmm.
Because if I'm
Yeah.
thinking I have to measure up, this has to be perfect. I have to I have to live up to my own ideal version of myself,
Mhm.
which do we have an ideal version of ourselves? No.
Yeah, it's our own expectations and,
Yes.
you know. Mhm.
Yeah. So what what are some of the um best, like, I don't know, what are some of the resources that you've utilized over the years? Maybe some key resources that have just been really helpful for you as a mom or a parent or business owner.
Mhm. Yeah, well, when I was home with my kids, I would take advantage of, um, at that time it was DVDs, and I remember watching the gal, and she's an amazing mom, Mrs. Duggar.
Oh, right. Uh-huh.
I just remember utilizing and getting in touch with who I knew at that time.
Mm,
Who I know of who was kind of in the circle of influence or whatever in the place I was. So I would get their videos
mm.
or read their books, and just try to grow and gain wisdom on in the place I was.
Right. Right. Yeah.
And now of course we have so many more resources right at our fingertips, you know. And so just finding those ministers or people that connect with your heart on where you want to go,
Yes, that's so good.
it's huge. And I've implemented, whenever I get ready in the morning, and I've done this for years now, I listen to someone. My husband will walk in and be like, he'll want to talk. So I'm like, okay, you know.
Right. I
Um,
was I posted on recently. I said, we are like the closest 5 people around us, right? And as a
mhm,
mom, I thought, oh no, like I'm with my kids all day. Not that that's bad, but I'm like,
mhm,
I'm at the top there, like who challenges me? Who calls me out, right?
mhm,
And that's when I finally had the realization that, oh my goodness, like one of my 5 people can actually be like a community of online moms or a podcast that I listen to regularly or whatever. And I was like, why didn't I think of that? And it
yeah.
wasn't until I actually started being consistent with finding people who are ahead of the journey or
Mhm,
who honestly just had more skills in an area I needed or faith in the area I needed, whatever. And I started listening to them, getting into the word, not just like I in survival mode, I'd be like, I can only just barely pray, help me, Lord. And
mhm,
sometimes there's seasons where it feels like that. But
yeah.
like digging into the word, even if it was I had to listen to it on audio instead of being able to read it, like listening while I'm folding laundry, washing dishes. We did a lot of listening in the car, driving to soccer games and stuff like that.
That's huge. Yeah, getting into the word and then actually applying it,
Yes.
actually doing it.
So that
Yeah,
it's not like the sign on the wall that you hang up and you have the verse on the wall, but then you never look at it or think about it.
right. Yeah.
Yep. It's
Yeah,
applying it.
actually paying attention to that. Like, what is this saying? And
Yeah. And not, oh, yes. And when we apply it, it's like, um, it's going back to what you said earlier. It's like building that belief. You have the belief, unless the Lord builds the house, the builders labor in vain. And it became more than something that you memorized. It was like, okay, God's saying he's going to partner with me if I
mhm,
allow him. Like I have he's given me free will to try to build this on my own.
yeah.
And so
Hmm.
that's where the application comes. And it starts with honestly our thoughts.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
does.
Yeah. Well,
That's the
Jackie, I know that like one of your heart, like one of the things you love to help people with
mhm,
is moving forward.
right. Mhm.
And I think you have a couple things coming up. how would people, if they really wanted to just go a little more in depth or um, hear more of your story? Because I know we're just touching the iceberg here with your story. Like, how could they do that?
Yeah, so they can find me on Facebook, Jackie Dighans, on Facebook. And I have the two things that I have out right now is I have a program called Moving Forward. And there's 4 teachings in there on living without regrets, one on watching what's coming out of our mouth, one on not being moved by circumstances, and then living loved. Okay, and so that's a $27 program that they can go in and purchase. And then also we've got my husband and I are doing a conference, and it's called Forward 2021. And we just want to share our story of what we had to believe as we raised our kids and we had business at the same time. And then how the past prepares us.
Ooh,
And
yes.
then the last part is on doing the unfamiliar, like taking that next
Mm,
step. And so it's a conference that will be virtual or in person in our town here in Montana. And they can find that too on the Jackie Dighans. There's a,
awesome. After we get off this, you can leave it in the comments too, like
okay.
all the information, and I'll try to update and everything. But I do, like you said, that one part of your conference is like how the past prepares you. Oh
Yeah.
my goodness. Women, a lot of times we get stuck in past failures, past mistakes, and we take that as evidence that we can't do anything in the
Right.
future.
Or we think that this job that we're doing at home isn't significant.
Ugh,
But
yes.
it is, it's huge. And we get to decide. I like the verse from James 1. It says, "Consider it pure joy, my brothers, whenever you face trials, because the testing of your faith produces." Well, so if you can look at your past and all the trials that have been in it,
Mm-hmm.
we get to decide what they produce,
Ooh, that's so good. Yes.
and how we look at them from the present perspective back. What are we thinking about those things that have happened or not happened,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and then being able to leave that behind in a positive way, like it produced something in us,
Right.
like we want growth, right?
Mm-hmm.
We want to be lacking nothing, like that verse in James says, make
Yes.
it complete, you know.
Yes.
So then realizing that, oh, those trials were to grow me,
Mm-hmm.
and now we can move forward, just like
So
in
good.
growing.
And a lot of times the trials that we walk through
Mhm.
are our testimony. And when it's our testimony, then we have authority to speak it because we've lived it.
Yes. Hmm. Yeah, it's huge.
I love this. Thank you. Like those of you who are watching, like if you have any ahas to what she said or any questions, or you're like, yes, I totally understand that, or here's something a verse that I hang on to, like leave that in the comments because we'd love to come back and just see what you thought and if this was encouraging, because we want to just encourage you. And we just
Mhm.
want people to uh, live their best life, but live in freedom. We
Mhm.
want people to live in freedom.
Yeah.
So thank you
And
so much.
now, before we get off too, I know you have a program or some things that you do. Can you share that too? What if people want to get a hold of
Oh,
you?
right. Yeah. So, yeah, those of you who might be watching via knowing Jackie and you have no clue who this person is, I'm Mo Spell. I'm a mom of 7. 4 are currently living with me, 3 are out. And we're a homeschooling family in the Midwest. I love to help women. I love to help women entrepreneurs, those who are in business. I am a covenant life coach. So I help people with decisions and seeing patterns that they're operating. And I love to be an encouragement in that way. So yes, you can find me. Maureen Spell Biz is my business Facebook page, or this might link to my private one. So I would
Mhm.
love to just help others.
Yeah. So yeah, don't wait to get a hold of Mo if you're, wanting to
Aw, thanks.
move forward in some areas. Yeah, you're amazing.
Well, thank you so much for joining me today, Jackie. And those of you who are hopping on or reading the videos, hopefully the captioning works this time. Seriously, we'd love to support you. Leave some comments. Let us know how we can pray for you or anything. So thank you, Jackie. And I hope all of you have a great day.